So now I want to welcome Jeff Scott, who is an amazing composer, horn player, uh, force of nature, great friend, great person. Um, I just have been a fan of Jeff's for a really long time. We've done a bunch of projects together, and I'm really excited to have him work with some of our wind players. So this is, normally the next festival focuses on string players because we have a string orchestra and we do a string orchestra concert. But since we're virtual, we're embracing not only location, where we have people from all over the world part of the festival, but also different instruments. And so I'm really grateful to Jeff for talking about instruments which create puddles. Uh,
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
uh, no, so we have three great fellows who are playing today, and I will put those in the chat as we go along. But I just want to say, hey, welcome, Jeff. Great to have you.
thank you, Peter. No, it's a pleasure. I guess this is basically the same folks that we spoke to last week when we did the talk about progression in music and theory and so forth.
Absolutely.
So good to see you all again. And first of all, kudos. I just checked in about 10 minutes ago to Jade, and that's just beautiful playing.
Isn't
Um,
it beautiful?
It really is beautiful. Every last one of my students works on Bach um, uh, because it's just so simple but complex and beautiful at the same time. And learning how to phrase and construct longer phrases because he's just the way he sort of gives all these deceptive cadences and, like you said, plays the long game with music. It's just it was so advanced for the time and just so it's all the constructs of musicality all wrapped in sometimes in just like 30 bars of music sometimes with some of the really short hymns that he does. So kudos to you, Jade. That was beautiful.
Yeah, great. And he doesn't really care if you have to breathe either.
Oh no, no, not at all, not at all.
He's playing the long game. That's your problem, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
You figure it out. Yeah, he just writes the music. So Jeff, I really want to jump right in. We have three great young artists to play for you today, and the first one, and I'll once we get going, I'll put those in the chat. But the first one is a flute player named Avery Washington. Avery, are you around?
Yep.
Great, welcome. And I'll leave it to Jeff now.
All right. Well, nice to meet you, Avery.
Nice to meet you.
Tell me a little bit about yourself before we jump in. Where you're from, what you do, how much money you got, that sort of thing.
So I'm from New Jersey. My main instrument's flute. I also play a couple other woodwind instruments, sax, clarinet. And mostly I just like, seeing what the flute can do, kind of playing getting all the different sounds out of it.
What part of Jersey?
North Jersey, so like Morris County.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. No, I lived. I was born in New York City, but uh, I've just for a short period, about 3 year period, I lived not quite that part of northern New Jersey, but in Cliffside Park. Do you know where that is?
Vaguely,
It's
yeah.
really close to the GW Bridge near Fort Lee.
hmm
So just before you get into Manhattan, there's a little pocket called Cliffside Park. I lived in New Jersey just for a short time, but I know New Jersey. I'm from Brooklyn. I mean, it's just a throw for a rock and get to New Jersey. Are you in school somewhere?
No. I just recently, 3 years now, finished my master's at William Patterson.
Oh, who'd you study with at William Pat?
Karen
Study.
Dempsey.
Yes, of course. Oh man, the flute player in Imani Winds, Valerie Coleman. You were probably there when she did some projects there, right?
Yeah, I was there for Umoja.
Yeah, yeah. They've got Karen and Valerie have a long history, long relationship. Oh man, the world's small. Well, great to have you here. I'm excited to hear you play. Um, I let's see here. Are you doing this thing, the pastoral
Yep.
stuff? When you're doing, all right. So, all right. Well, I don't know if you need a minute or two to kind of get things chop wise ready to go, or if you're ready to go, or how would you like to proceed?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I can just jump into it if you want.
All right. Do you plan on playing the whole thing or a portion?
Honestly, it's whatever you want. I can play the whole thing, or you can stop me when you want. Anything.
I have. I want to make sure I have everything I'm supposed to. I have 2 pages. It doesn't really. My second page doesn't have a end bar. Is that what you've offered? These 2 pages?
Yeah, the whole thing is just those 2 pages.
Oh, I see. It doesn't have a final bar, so maybe that's just cut off. All right, very good. Yeah, let's just kind of go for it. And I don't know the piece, so I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna learn, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
All right. Oh, that's beautiful. Bravo. Bravo, Avery. Um, you know, like everybody should be on screen. Yeah, there's some yellow claps. There we go. Bravo. Absolutely beautiful. Let me ask you a couple of questions before I dive in. How long you been working on this piece here?
Kind of like on and off for about 6 months, I'd say.
Hmm. And was it like something you're preparing for an audition, a recital, or did you just sort of gravitate to it? What brought you to it?
So actually, this movement was part of the National Flute Association competition, so I was preparing it for that.
Excellent. That's coming up, or that passed, or
Yeah, that passed.
Did you do it?
Yeah, I ended up submitting an application.
Excellent. Well, good for you because that's competitions are. I mean, they're the things that cut. They're like big auditions. They get you in gear. They they then they also help you find out where you are with you and your acts. Oh, good for you. Good for you. Well, I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful piece, and you do fantastic things with it. Um, have you actually taken? Well, it's been 6 months now, so you've probably taken some coachings on this with Karen.
Actually, no.
Oh, is this the first sort of coaching you're having on it?
I think so. I might have had like a lesson here or there, but for the most part, yeah.
Ooh, okay, all right. Well, you're in trouble now. All right. Well, first of all, um, tell me anything at all. There's almost no wrong answer. I'll tell you if it's a wrong answer, but I doubt if there'll be one. Anything you can tell me at all about the piece and what it is that you're trying to bring out of the written page and present to us. What are you trying to say?
Yeah, okay. So with this one, I am definitely feeling like that pastoral kind of like countryside, so like very kind of lush but also calm, and with like little moments of excitement kind of interspersed throughout.
Mm-hmm. So calmness, wind blowing out in the fields, and then like a brisk of air comes through, and there's like shimmers of excitement and so on. I like that. I like that. And I think you could do a lot more of that. Could you, last question, well, I'll have a lot more, but last sort of preparatory question. If you could give yourself a grade, your own personal grade, not what Karen Dempsey would do or anybody else would do, on a scale of 1 to 5, on how well you normally play this piece, what would you give yourself?
Um, I'd say like a round of four, like generally pretty like okay.
Okay, all right, fantastic. And have you ever played it at what you consider to be your 5?
No, I don't think so, not yet.
What would you say are the things that are keeping you from getting to that 5, that Avery Washington 5 that you could get to?
I think there's a couple mechanical spots I need to like kind of iron out, and then just really figuring out some basically how to keep the interest in some of those repetitive sections.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so lots to unpack. The first thing is that you want to set the mood. I mean, any piece you play at all, there's some sort of mood that you're setting, and you want to set this sort of relaxed, calm, um, sort of sort of picturesque sort of setting. How would you translate that into? I mean, because a lot of that's already written on the page in terms of like the actual instructions. It says call me on the front. It's called pastoral. But would you put that into actual mechanical practice? Like, what would you say needs to happen in those first couple of bars, first 4 bars of music that makes that pastoral calm? Would you do?
I guess to like really set the really set the kind of feel of the piece. I definitely would want to make sure things are like nice and smooth, no kind of like big breaks in the sound.
Smooth, no breaks in
Probably,
the sound. Yeah.
yeah.
What else? Give me
That
something else.
um, I think for me, like this calming mood is usually like a wider vibrato, kind of like slower, not as active.
Does the vibrato have variance in it? Meaning, is it always wider, or is it sometimes more narrow, more shimmery, or is it
Um,
always the same?
no, I think it does vary, and
It
trying to like
varies.
figure out where exactly it's like wider or more shimmery.
Right. Yes. Right. So, um, let's just take just those first couple of things that you talked about, um, and we talk about really keeping things very smooth. The first thing we want to talk about when we talk about things being smooth is airflow. yeah, and making sure that our airflow doesn't have any bumps in the road. You know, even if the phrase is sort of disjunct like this, we don't want a phrase that goes ya ya ya. You want it to sing all the way through. And so these first four bars really lend themselves to being as calm with the airflow as possible. This beautiful descending line with thirds, so there's no real disjunctness. So we should really strive, especially in a place. This is kind of like I don't know if you play baseball, sort of a baseball analogy. It's like somebody throwing a soft toss to you. It's like here, this is a real easy, calm phrase where you can be a superstar and put all the best air that you have in and really, really go for the smoothest, most tapering lines. I see these mezzo forte, calme, crescendo to forte, decrescendo to piano. If you can really sort of sustain those dynamics without having any breaks in the sound. So I don't know the pitches very well, but yeah, so we can keep that sustained with the airflow without sort of the bumps in the road would be really in good shape. Let's just concentrate on maintaining a consistent airflow and dynamic. That mezzo forte does not get softer. It goes in directly into the forte. That forte sustains for 3.5 beats and then slowly tapers to a piano. And that's where we get that calming feeling. Let's try that first 4 bar phrase.
Okay.
Well, I already like that a whole lot better. But one thing I noticed just right away is you changed your breathing scheme this time than the previous time. Do you have a breathing scheme?
Only in that I don't want to breathe between the second and third measures.
Right. But see, here's the thing. If you don't follow a particular breathing scheme, one that's literally written in the page, then some note's going to suffer. You're going to go, oh my God, I should have breathed that other note. And that last note you play is going to go, because we play wind instruments. And so we need a roadmap. And especially if we go play in public. as soon as you go and play in public, you start changing things because you can't remember. It's like you got like 2,000 notes here. You can't remember where to breathe. So let's decide where we want to breathe. I know we say we don't want to breathe between bar 2 and 3. No way. Where would you like to breathe?
Um, I think if I could make it, I'd like to breathe after the second B in the fourth measure.
You want to go all the way there? Really? You sure? And the only reason I say she's like, what? Yeah, that's what I said. No, the only reason I say that is because um, in the previous run through, you very often breathed before the eighth notes. So ba da dum di da 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 bi da dum di da 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 da. And that's a really sort of natural. If I don't need to know the music. That's a natural place to breathe. That other place kind of really, I don't know. That kind of sticks out a little bit. Just for me, try breathing after beat 3 in the third bar. That way we can really control that piano when we get to the end of it. Try that, and that was fantastic sustain. One more time. Yeah, and that way, and you can work on that, but that way you really have enough in the tank for that last piano because we all know we need way more support for the piano than we do for the forte because we're not really tanked up. Now, let's now talk about vibrato. Now, I don't know what your baseline vibrato is in terms of what you consider to be wide, but what would you say you're using right now? Is this your wider vibrato or more shimmery?
I think for the most part, I'm using more of like a shimmery vibrato.
So now you told me you wanted to have a wider vibrato. So which one is it? What are we gonna do, Avery? you know, which one are you gonna use to start this?
I think I'd like to try a wider vibrato.
All right, well, let's get to it. And here's the thing, and this is the reason why I talked to you about, you can have variants and you can change your mind. You are a great musician. You can change your mind anytime you want, just not during my master class. So, sorry, I'm having fun with you. But here's the thing when I talk about variants in vibrato, especially when we're talking about uh, uh, sequences or phrases that repeat with like a slight variance in it, it's always nice to think about how we want to do the vibratos as well. So you can start this with a pretty wide, lush, yes, this is just starting mezzo forte, wide and beautiful vibrato, but that when you come back to the antecedent phrase, that can be more shimmery and soft and more introverted instead of we don't want that heavy one in the piano, right? So maybe we can start with that big idea of a wide vibrato, and then as we get softer and softer, plus the softer, more shimmery vibrato helps us with support, and we can really, really sustain that last note. Can we just try that same thing you just did? Beautiful sustain, wider vibrato on the fortes and mezzo fortes, shimmery, lighter vibrato in the second piano.
Okay.
No breathing there. We made a deal, Avery. That was the third different breath you just decided. You can't just breathe anywhere you want. Let's put that breath back where it was after the third beat, the third bar. One more time. Sorry. Shimmery. Man, make sure you sustain. Make sure yeah. All right, so that's already better. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about in this first half, first little phrase anyway, is about direction. Now, I don't know if you were tuning in to the very last segment with Jade playing the Bach. We were just talking about direction and finding an arrival beat, arrival note, or arrival passage, or something somewhere where the phrase does this. Now, this is pretty road, roadmap kind of music. It's written on the page, but right now it sounds like you're playing beautiful individual notes. Sustained, we've got the sustained, and we've got the vibrato, but they sound like and it doesn't have that. We need because then he goes he changes the whole color, the whole thing by changing the actual chord progression. And so we want to show a phrase that's in one tonality and then another phrase that's in a different tonality and a different dynamic. And so let's blow through it a little bit more. And it also says, what does it say on the top left corner?
play moderate.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Like very moderate.
What does that mean?
So kind of like even and like kind of middle of the road, not like super
Super
any
what?
like fast, slow, any like
So we're
one
talking
extreme.
tempo, right?
Yeah.
So Trey, very moderate, yeah. So not slow, in other words. So we don't want to go ding, ding, ding. No, that's maybe some other piece that he wrote. Who wrote this anyway? I don't even know who's the composer.
Gobert.
Gobert. Okay. So if this isn't a lament. So let's just move. This is we're out in the fields. We're we're chewing on straw. You got your summer dress on and an iced tea, and you're waiting for the breeze to come by so that you can just do, you do all that, right? So we don't want to cry in the first bar. No crying in the first bar. Let's go. Here we go. One more time from the top. We'll trace like da dee dee da da. Shimmery. Yeah. Oh, now see, now we're doing something. Now we're doing something. And with that as a sort of opening statement, you've already showed three beautiful things: continuousness in the phrase, sustain of dynamics, and a variance in vibrato. So if you're doing a competition, that's what the judges are listening for. Everybody's going to play all the notes. What are you going to do with the notes? What are you going to present? What are you going to show that's like next level of musicality? So you've already, embarked on that. Now, the next thing you were talking about was trying to make, you said when you do like a Avery 5, you're able to make some of these repetitive, difficult sections sound a little bit more, musical. And I wouldn't say effortless because, there's two people in the world that can make hard music sound effortless. I'm not one of them. Yo-Yo Ma, and, I don't know, somebody else. But we gonna try, because the way we do that, we know, is to not allow this to be the discerning factor, and definitely not to overblow all those really, really hard high notes. So we don't want to go, we can't do that. So the first thing you want to do, and we're going to skip a little bit because no, you know what? Let's just continue. Actually, it does exactly what I needed to do. Just let's just do those two bars even. That's enough. Just hear what's happening one more time. Bar 5 and 6. All right, stop there. So we can't start the phrase on the second or the third note. My teacher used to always tell me that. We start a phrase on the very first note. You're so worried about the top note that you're not putting that air in on the very first note. We use that as the jumping board. So da da dee dee da, da da dee dee da. And I don't even care that it says piano. We have to have a foundation. So you want to lean on. If you were a cello player, you'd just be like da da dee dee da da, da da dee dee da. Not da. Need a foundation. So you put the air in that first note, even if it comes out just a little bit healthier, but at least you have a foundation to blow from. Yeah. And then the last thing, after the eighth note, the second eighth note, no breaks in the airflow. So it's not da da diggity da 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 diggity da 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 da. Even puts, unless I've got my. See. Yeah, there's a crescendo. So even puts a crescendo in the middle of that bar, so you can blow right into beat 3 there. One more time. you're still stopping the air. It's even though you connected the two notes, you relax the airflow. So you went da 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 dee da da dee da dee da 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 da. So the sing through ya da 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 da. Da 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 dee 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 sing through ya da 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 dee. More time. Better, a little bit better. Can you have a sound in your mind that you want to hear?
Um, for like a specific part, or
Right, for this one little bar right here. Like, do you hear it in your mind the way you want to play it?
I guess I have like a kind of vague idea of what I want, but nothing like really concrete yet.
Oh, well, then there is our issue. My my very not my very first teacher, my very first teacher in college would always make me sing my music. He says you can't sing it, or and not that you need to be Lincoln Price, but if you can't sing it the way you want to hear it, how the heck are you gonna play it? Yeah, at least you should be able to go da 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 da, whatever it is. Did you think about how you want this phrase to go, and then even if you do it just on la da 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 da, sort of sing it to me?
Sure. La da 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 dee da dee da dee dee da dee dee da.
Okay, well then that explains a lot. You just sang, and I'm putting you on the spot right now. You sang la da 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 da. How much of what I just sang that was yours has anything to do with out in the fields, wind blowing? That didn't do it. Yeah, that didn't have any tre marere. That didn't have any of that. So your vision of the sound has to come from somewhere. So think about it again. I'm sure that's not exactly what you meant.
La dee dee da dee dee da dee da dee dee da dee da dee da.
That's already better because I heard you singing the eighth notes into the next phrase. And I'm not saying necessarily that you have to be again a great singer, but everything that we do started with the human voice. We only play instruments because we want to mimic either the human voice or something in nature that calls us. Um, so if you can't demonstrate it, if you can't, all of this stuff that Peter Askham and I are doing, where we're doing all this expression and we're just trying to pull that out of you, so that the voice that's in your head that goes that's so that comes out in the horn. It might look really really corny and nerdy, but that's what we want to have come out of the horn. So you got to pull that out of you too, because that's kind of why the music isn't flowing. Because your vision of it has to come from somewhere. I think there's a much more song-like version of it in your mind that you're probably a little shy to sing here on public Zoom. Can I get a little bit more? I mean, everybody's off screen now except for Ashley and Peter, so they're probably not even watching. Can you sing it with me?
Okay.
All right, here we go. We're gonna sing it together. One, two, ready, and. A little louder. Let's see. That's a forte. A lot of fast notes. One more time. One, two, ready. All right, let me hear you play that. The way you sing. 10 times better already. Already. And the thing is, now you're dealing with a different sort of musical spectrum. That's going to change your dynamic spectrum. Right now, before you're kind of living in the sort of a piano to mezzo piano world. And now we really need to expand that so that you have much more colors, when you can really sound beautiful in mezzo forte, you can sound beautiful even in forte, but we have to have a wider palette. And that just demonstrated that you could do that. Let's do that one more time. And this time, let's do the next bar where it doesn't do that. The second bar just does that. So and then we celebrate the end of this phrase. Yeah. Let's do it one more time from bar 5. Pretty good, pretty good. Make sure that we are subdividing though. Anyways, very good. I see Peter on the Zoom, and that might mean that we're coming close to the end of time. So I'm probably going to have to leave you with this, but I think what we've talked about, just to recap, kind of, you know, works its way through the piece. And primarily it's that, you know, have a vision of the music that's in your mind that you aspire to portray through the instrument. And when you have that, and I have to tell you that I will sit in my lessons with my students and we'll just sing, even if we sing it on ta ta ta, we'll sing through the part until I'm sure that they have something that they want to say musically. You have the ideas, just got to have the will and the desire to allow that to just come out and like really, really go there and think about what you want to say musically. The other thing is that I want you to remember about sustain. The biggest thing that I heard, and that was by far the one thing that got better just in a few minutes, was that you're sustained not only note to note, but dynamic and keeping the phrase. Because if we have those bumps and in the road where the sound sort of goes and comes and goes and comes, then we really can't build longer phrases. And so that already improved. And then the last thing I'd say is, you know, you might realize that I ask a whole lot of questions of you, and it's because, you know, teachers really, we don't teach a whole lot. We are really, what we're trying to do is pull things out of you that we know are in there, so that then you recognize your own talent, your own greatness, and you know what things you also need to work on. And so I ask a lot of questions of my students so that you can be aware of what it is that you personally know about yourself and what you can then work on in the private. And you only see your teacher 1 hour out of a week. You know, you see them 1 hour, and the other 6 days and 23 hours, it's all on you. So you're your teacher. You know, I take an hour and everybody else takes an hour, and they try to present to you all the things that you need to work on. But you need to be the teacher too. So I ask a lot of questions. So ask yourself all of those questions before you start. How did I just do? Is that my 5? Is that my 4? Why isn't it my 5? What things do I need to do? And ask those questions of yourself. And that's all I got for you. That's all I have time for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Avery. That was great. And thanks, Jeff.
Yeah. Who's the next victim?
Next victim is Ashley Byer, a horn player.
Woo! Ashley. Ashley, give me something. Tell me something about you.
My name is Ashley Byer. I'm a recent graduate of the University of North Texas with my undergrad in December of 2020.
With Stacy?
Yes, with Stacy.
Oh man, I just wrote a trio for their brass trio. Literally, like they did a recording literally like a month ago. It was in May. They just recorded a piece. Oh man, love Stacy, love her playing, fantastic. So all right, so you're studying there. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Central Ohio.
Oh, whereabouts?
I'm from Johnstown, northeast of Columbus.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you know, but I teach at Oberlin now.
I do.
Oh, and you know, I didn't know anything about Ohio until I got here. Well, that's not true. That's not true. I would very often, my quintet would travel to Indiana to do work for this one organization called Fishaw, and I always use that because I love to drive. I always use that as a reason to drive my car, and I would always stop in Cleveland on my way, and I had this favorite restaurant. Don't ask me why. It happened one time, and I decided that every time I did that trip, I was going to stop at that same restaurant. So I knew Cleveland at least before I got here. So you're going to play España, yeah?
Yes, sir.
And uh, tell me a little bit about what brought you to this piece and where you are with it, why you're playing it, all that stuff.
So I'm gonna be doing a recital probably at the end of August. It's not officially scheduled yet, but on top of that, I'm also working in the process. I'm almost done of recording all five of the movements of this suite for the IHS convention.
It's
So
coming
that's
up,
kind
right?
of yeah. So that's kind of how we started this piece, and I've been playing it for a couple weeks. This is the last one that I have to record.
Well, you already recorded Japan and all
I
those
already
other.
recorded the other ones, yeah. So I did it myself. I did it like in my own house and everything. But
Wow,
so this is the last one.
that's intense. I mean, they're big pieces. I mean, they're not, you know. I mean, fortunately, there's solo pieces, so you don't have to like get together with a pianist and rehearse and all that. But that's a lot of music. Good for you. Good for
It's
you.
definitely been a project for sure.
Yeah, yeah, good for you. All right, well, you know, it's hard to sit around and not play for a minute. So if you need to blow for about 20 or 30 seconds, do so. Because
Okay.
this piece kind of it goes.
Yeah.
It just
I'm
goes.
gonna go ahead and just play about the first two pages there, and then
Okay,
stop. And then if we have time, we'll keep going from there.
got it. Fair enough. But definitely warm up if you need to. Sorry, I'm on mute. Is that where you want to stop?
We'll stop there for now, and then
All right,
yeah.
fantastic. Well, bravo. This is well, beautiful playing. This is a tough piece to deliver the true, you know, moxie of on Zoom. you and I know this. Folks who don't know the piece might not know that when you play this piece, it's kind of one of those pieces you want to play in a big resonant hall and have the sound sort of bellowing and ringing and all that. And Zoom kind of does this to our sound. It makes it really really thin. It doesn't have the resonance that a nice hall will have. So I guess that goes for anything we do on Zoom, but particularly for these solo horn pieces, really benefit from resonant hall. So I'll take that into account, especially in the very beginning. But I will say what happens on Zoom is much like playing in a really, really dry room when you're practicing and you notice every tiny little inconsistency. I hate playing in dry rooms because they tell all the story. But that kind of happens, and it's in a good way here because that opening call is just the bells ringing. It's just high noon in Toledo or somewhere really really cool, Asturias, somewhere in Spain, and the bells are ringing, and you've got to let that sucker ring, and you can't have too much decay. It's almost sounding like forte pianos. Bing, 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 bing. I mean, this is, somebody's up in the bell tower and they're going bing, 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 bing. And so we have to sort of, again, have that vision in mind of what it is you're trying to sound like. What are you trying to say? I don't think it's a forte piano. There's nothing about a big bell tower bell that has forte piano in it. It's loud, it's strident, and it lets everyone know that something is happening. Yeah. So let's alert the folks. A little bit more sustain after the attack is really what we're going for. And there's no, this is no phrase, there's no direction to this, but you want every last one. There's no bum, 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 bum. Just keep the very sustained double forte, whatever it is, forte. I don't have the part in front of me. I know the music, but I don't have the part in front of me. But yeah, just keep that very well sustained.
Okay.
One more time, just that opening up until the. Okay, almost. No, what was great? Those first four bell tones were fantastic, and then when you had to change the notes, you changed your articulation, and all of a sudden started playing phrases. Dee dee da da da. That's not that. Bum 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 ba. It's like all of a sudden you had different bells to hit, but it's not a phrase. It's not la da da da. It's bum 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 ba bum 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 ba. Keep that great articulation you had on those first repeated notes. Pretty good. Bum 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 bum. Just play B. This is B, F sharp, E, bum bum. Just play those with the same articulation you played on the opening notes. Out of time, just go bum bum bum. Play those opening E's one more time. Bing, bing. Oh, that's the sound I want on ball, ball, ball. Yes. Now, bum, 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 bum. Now play it in time with the exact same articulation.
Wait, okay.
almost. You went ba 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 or bum 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 bum. Pretty good. The more you work on having the exact same articulation, it doesn't change. Look at the page; they don't change. The notes change, the articulations don't change. You just want to sound like a party is being started up in the bell tower. Somebody's just hitting the crap out of some bells, and it's sounding great. And then all of a sudden, things calm down with those trills in the end.
Okay.
But work slowly, I would say, on the moving notes so that they sound exactly like those beautiful opening concert A's that you played. Because that was it. You started and it was like, yes, that's what I want to hear. And then when we went to the notes that changed, we started elongating, not really elongating, just started smoothing out the articulation. And we still want to have that party bell tone sound.
Okay.
Are you double tonguing? Ducky da, ducky da. Are you double tonguing there? Ba ba bum bum bum. All that stuff.
Yes, I'm double tonguing all the written eighth notes.
Right. All right. So that's going to make it even more difficult to have because you're setting us up with this beautiful ringing bell tone sound on the first four notes. We all know anytime you have to go ka, that articulation in the back of our tongue, it's really hard to get that really poignant, brilliant articulation. So I would practice just ka on almost all of this to work out my ka so that they're sounding as brilliant, as wonderful as your regular ta articulation. And in fact, we could do just a little bit right now, just on a B natural. I really shouldn't be playing in this two-bedroom New York apartment right now that I'm in. I'll get in a whole lot of trouble. I'm going to play a couple of notes. So regular articulation, but on ka, sorry. Just make sure that you can get the same articulation. So articulate ta 4 times and then ka to try to replicate it. That's so the second, third, and fourth ones were perfect. That's how you want to practice this. Do that on B, on the E's, on the F sharp, so that you get your kas working as well as your tas on all the notes, and then you don't have to think about any sort of diminution of quality of articulation. They'll all be great. So that's a good way to work on that. Trills. How those trills?
I normally don't. I got a little nervous, and I normally play them a lot better than what I did.
I understand.
I don't breathe in between it.
I totally understand all of what you just said. I completely get. Can we just go right there on the da da da? All right, I don't have nearly enough time to even begin to start talking about how to work on trills. I know you must be working on them diligently because you're working on this piece. First of all, 2, you studied with Stacy, so I know you work on your trills. But we have to get them just a little faster because right now they sound measured. Da-dee-da-dee-dum, da-dee-da-dee-dum, da-dee-da-dee-dum. And that just, we need a little bit quicker. So I don't know if you do the Koprosh method where it's quarter, eighth, triplet, 16th. But do it. It really works. Take a metronome, start at 60 to the quarter, do e o e do e o e o e o e do e o e o e o e o e o e do e o e o e o e, and move that metronome up until you get to 110, 120. Do e o e do e o e o e o e do e o e o e o e o e o e o e o e o e o e. And if you can get the range of doing that etude, I don't know what number it is in Coprage, but you know what I'm talking about. You know the one. You can get that anywhere between 60 and 110, able to do it at any tempo in there. You can vary your trill at any speed you want it. But you have to do it diligently like that so that you have not just a fast trill, but a controlled trill as well. And I know we're going to be up against time, so I'm going to skip a little bit to talk a little bit about the stop horn stuff.
Okay.
Two things. Shorter, crisper. I can't see your hand position, so I'm going to assume it's a good hand position that you have, but it sounded sort of a little bit not as closed as it could be.
Okay.
Try to get the best closed sound, support well, and don't be too concerned about playing piano. The amount of air that we put in for that first one, the amount of air that we put in to get a stopped horn, if we took the hand out, we'd be playing double forte. It's how that's how, because of the compression. So, and it's coming out soft anyway because it's stopped. We're going for a really, really crisp, just really, really tight articulation. That's going to need a little bit more air and a tighter closed sound. You just go there, that first one. Yes, absolutely. And the other thing I would say is that it just needs to be a little looser. It sounds a little bit like a drum, bop, 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 bop. And it's more of a gesture. Bop, 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 bop. Have you ever seen anybody do any sort of flamenco dancing?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. All right, so it's very it's like this. It's not bop 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 bop. So loosen a little bit with the 16th note into the 8th. Not that bop 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 bop. Yep. Absolutely. Think Carmen. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. That's where that comes from. That motif, that rhythm, it's age old, and that's where it comes from. And then probably lastly, I would say when you have the stopped horn stuff with the remember one thing. Except for how many people are in your horn studio?
When I graduated, we had 63.
63?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's a lot. But it's still, compared to the amount of people in the world who don't know anything about French horn, 63 people know that you're playing stopped horn and will give you a break if some of the notes aren't quite as clear. The other 330 million people in the United States, if they're listening to you, they'll go, I didn't hear all those notes. What's going on? And what's that technique she's using? Slow it down and pace it a little more so that we hear all those notes. Anytime we do extended technique on any instrument, particularly on the horn, we're multiphonics, stopped horn, double and triple tonguing, singing through the horn. These types of techniques on the instrument are like, no one hears that stuff. And especially in a solo piece, just you playing, take your time, pace it out so that every note sounds. And if you get faster, you will have set it up early. There's that. I know there's that cello rondo. You've already set it up a little bit so that people actually already know what they expect to hear. Da 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 dee 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 da 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 dee 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 da 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 dee 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 da 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 da. But if it's just fast and the notes sort of speak, then it actually ends up sounding like mistakes, like you've missed the notes. Just pace it out. It's really really important for extended techniques. The listener just they heard you go bomb bomb bomb, and all of a sudden like everybody's gonna go. My mother, she would be like, "What the heck is that person doing?" You know what I mean? So take your time, deliver it. It's more important to really deliver the notes and the phrases. So that whole passage, let it build up to yada da da. Everything else can be a little bit slower leading up to that. That sort of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I think I gotta go because I think I'm gonna listen to a saxophone player play some really hard music. Bravo.
Thank you.
Great job, Ashley. Let's move on.
All right. Um, Andrew,
Hello.
how you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm having a good time. You're on a pretty talented festival Zoom thing here. There's a lot of good talent here. I am really glad I don't have to play right now. Let's just put it that way. Tell me a little bit about Andrew before Andrew plays David Ludwig.
Yes. Well, I am a graduate student at the University of Michigan going into my second year. I'm pursuing a Master's of Music in Saxophone, Master's of Music in Chamber Music, and a Certificate in Arts Entrepreneurship and Leadership.
Is that all?
Yeah.
You're an
for some reason they're allowing me to
underachiever.
do everything. But I finished up my bachelor's degree at Bowling Green State University.
Yep.
And funny enough, we bring up Ohio. I'm in Ohio right now, actually. I'm in Lakewood. So,
Oh man, you're in my neck of the woods. Yeah,
yes,
Overland,
yes.
really
My
close.
fiance is the new band director here, so we're getting her all settled in. But yeah, so that's everything about me.
Fantastic. All right, now I have to admit, as much as I admire David Ludwig's music, I did not know about this piece, and I listen to a lot of his stuff. I think he's a fantastic composer, and I tried to find it online, and I couldn't find it. Not even on his site.
Mhm.
You know this already.
Yes, I mean that was actually a big reason I decided to play it. So it's a part of a project I'm doing. I'm recording my first solo album of all music for tenor saxophone, and most of the stuff include pieces I've commissioned. But then there was a few pieces in the tenor saxophone repertoire that have no recordings, no information about them. So this piece, and then Marlene Bong, composer, she's on faculty at Darmstadt. She has a
Oh,
piece for solo tenor that nobody plays, and there's one recording of it, and I'm not really sure why. And same with this piece. Like, I love all of his other music that I've heard, and
right.
there are no recordings of this, and it was written back in
Yeah.
2010, and nobody has recorded it, so I figured
You would
I
have thought
play it.
in this day and age, you'd at least find a student playing it on YouTube in a
Mhm.
recital. I tried, I couldn't find anything. Well, first of all, let me say good luck on recording.
Thank you.
But second of all, as a composer, and I'm sure Mr. Askin will concur with this, that you are purposely going out of your way to play pieces that have not been recorded means a lot. It just means so much for the people that wrote this music. And David Ludwig, he may not need somebody to make him more well known. Of course, he's a well known
Yes.
composer, but I'm sure he feels horrible that no one's ever recorded
Mhm.
this piece of music that he took the time to compose
Yeah.
for somebody named Matthew something or another.
Matt Levy, he's with
Yeah.
Prison.
Right.
Prison Quintet.
So we have to call prison and say, Matt, what's going on? Why didn't you?
Yes, I actually met with we worked on the piece. The composer and I worked on the piece probably 2 months ago, and I brought up the fact that I found it because I was looking for music for tenor saxophone that hadn't been recorded, and he said there was, but recording project from some saxophonist in Europe that just kind of fell through.
Well, just just to echo, just bravo for you for uncovering it, because I'm sure it's all fantastic music, and it deserves to have the light of day. And you'll just be the one that makes everybody know that. So
Yes.
good for you.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited for it.
Well, because we kind of went over a couple of minutes, I'll let you get to it, because we'll run out of time, and I want to give you as much possible time. Yeah. Bravo. Bravo. Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand why it's not performed. That's really fantastic music. It's tongue in cheek. It's got all kinds of, you know, I mean, in a short 3 minute thing, it just says so much musically. So good for you. Um, so a lot to unpack, just in terms of the integrity of the score. Um, and since you're going to be the guy now, you're the one that's going to set the standard. Um, let's talk a little bit about the integrity of the score and the I don't know how to phrase it the best way, but the amount of the amount you can be subtle, and the amount that really you need to sort of just kind of say what it says.
Okay.
when we're interpreting any piece of music, there's a part of us, because we're sophisticated musicians, that sometimes we don't want to be too overt about things, because it's becomes melodramatic, a little bit too much. But then there comes a point where it becomes so subtle that I don't really know if you know that I know that that thing's in the score.
Yeah.
Like I heard some things that I know because you've worked with the composer, you worked on this. So, but like, are you really trying to be so subtle with those accents and are you trying to be so subtle with the accents? Because I didn't really hear them as much.
Not necessarily. No, I'm not necessarily trying to be subtle with them.
Okay, because that's the tongue in cheek of this whole thing. These little cells anyway. That he has these sporadic accented notes, and for the most part, except for the ones that were really high that came out accented just because they're high, they almost sounded the same. And if I wasn't looking at the score, I just think it was I would think it was just a series of notes. And so I would say a little bit more when it came to the accented notes, even in the pianissimo, just so that it speaks a little bit more. And that really goes for like just all of those cells where you have the accents. And the other thing is that, well, first of all, bravo on the vibrato variances.
Oh, thank you.
Man, that was just. I mean, if I was a composer, I'd be like, wow, this guy gets it. He really. I mean, if I was a composer of this piece.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
But that was a Freudian slip. If I was the composer of this piece, they're like, this guy gets my music. Because it really, I heard like 3 or 4 different variances in your vibrato, almost like I forget the term. It's like a bisbigliato or whatever it's called with that. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's really, really spot on. But sometimes in that we lost some of the dynamic.
Okay.
The challenge, I think, is going to be, because people who play this music are going to be like the rest of us. They're going to be really nerdy people, that are going to go, oh, it's sans piano and he's playing mezzo forte, So, but the thing is, really, if you're going to capture this score, is to be able to do all those variances within the dynamics that are written, and really like push yourself. So, for instance, in where am I?
Yeah, it's kind of hard with no measure numbers.
Yeah, it's one of these where you have. Yes, all right. So I'm sure there are plenty of these. So I'm looking at the third to last cell, third to last line.
Okay.
The first bar of it, you have a G sharp written pianissimo with this still note, and then the vibrato.
Yes.
And what I was hearing in that one, and in the very, very last one, is that it was really sort of like mezzo forte-ish when you were doing the heavy vibrato. And so if you could push yourself to find that special quality of pianissimo with when you do the sustain, without the big crescendo. I know it's difficult, but that's why we're doing this music, because it's challenging. Could we do just a little bit, because that's so much of the piece, these controlled vibratos. Can we do that pianissimo one, third system before the end, still sound into the vibrato? Can you do more of the still sound before you get to? Does he say anything about the length? I don't think so. He says anything about the length of the fermati.
Did I?
Oh yes, yep. There it is. There it is. There it is. Is this considered a? Yeah, this is a short fermata.
Yeah, so 1 to 2 seconds.
Oh, that's why you're actually playing this score correctly. All right, so One more time then. Let me listen to this with new ears. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Absolutely. And then the very last one, which this looks like the long, yeah, this is the 5 to 7 second fermata with the, but can we start that? This is the hard one. Start it in pianissimo with the wide trill to no trill at all, but still all in pianissimo. We just start with the actual note still. All right, frame that. Fantastic, frame that. Let's start. Oh, that's beautiful. Andrew, that's fantastic. Beautiful. Have that integrity. You know, I don't know if you're going to have anybody special with you when you do the recording, somebody that's going to be in a booth and sort of pushing you to get the best quality recording that you have. If you do, have them push you to get that, which you just were able to capture, because those are the things that make the recordings that you hear. You know, now everybody's putting everything out on YouTube, and they're kind of becoming like the go-to recordings for new music that everybody's putting on social media. When you find that quality of beautiful tone and controlled dynamic with that extended technique, it just sets the standard. And that's what you want to do when you do new music like this. You want to say, well, you know, you might do it different, but this is the standard. Like, this is the way it should be played, at least, right? All right. So the other thing is being much more convincing with the dynamic changes and sustain of dynamic. So I'm looking at now the third, from the beginning, the third system after the box cell. And you have the F sharp going into the D sharp. I don't know what dynamic you're envisioning. There's none written there, or what are you thinking?
I was thinking of starting it a little, maybe like forte minus, not quite going all the way down to mezzo forte, crescendoing to as loud without sounding gross, and then going back down.
All right. Can you convince me of that a little bit more? I wasn't quite sure. And where are you ending your dynamic?
I was going down even farther than forte, because the note afterwards being piano.
You wanted to have that be special.
Yeah, so I was trying to have it kind of fade into the next idea. Got
it. All right, let's do that. And in fact, then go into the next phrase just so that you can deliver that.
Okay.
Okay, good. But what I actually heard, in all honesty, was a decrescendo, not even a decrescendo, it was a preparation for the D sharp. You know, like, and, but yeah. Good. Excellent. That's so much more convincing. And now let's just really talk about these accents before we run out of time. Because to me, they just sound like notes that come out louder, a little bit louder because they're higher in the arch of the note. We're not doing anything necessarily special. I don't hear accent with staccato. You know what I mean?
Okay.
We don't.
Yes.
I don't care what the dynamic is. We need something. Something's got to happen on that note, on those notes. They've got to have a special quality. And I think, just a little bit more pop it might be a different type of articulation. I don't know. A little more, I don't know. You tell me, but something that makes all of those accents special. Can we do it slowly?
Which one?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going in the same. That now we're in the fourth line, first.
Okay. Just where
yeah.
we ended.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that last one should be the loudest.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we end with the loudest dynamic. And this is what I'm talking about, delivering and being convincing about your dynamics. Beep, beep, no,
Okay. Yep.
yeah. Yes. This piece, if it's anything, it's about dynamics and the control of the dynamics, and then how you can control your airflow in terms of vibrato, density of vibrato. Man, we were just talking about this with Avery. It's going to show off your control of air, and I would say the last thing I would say is that the more you can make the still sound. I don't know if you. Well, let me ask you this first, because I don't want to interpret your music for you. When it's just straight line, are you going for no vibrato at all?
Yes.
Or just okay, fantastic.
Having no vibrato. When it's a light line, just a little vibrato, and then when it's the dark, wider line, obnoxious vibrato.
So the hardest thing to do, because you play a vibrato instrument, is to play with no vibrato. And so often what I've been hearing in this is that even when you get to the still sound, there's this little hint of vibrato coloring the sound.
Okay.
And, we got to turn ourselves a little bit into a robot and say, I will only do vibrato when I, you got to reprogram yourself, because you're trying to give us that beautiful sound that you have. But yeah, if you're going to deliver this piece with the most convincing, technique, this extended technique, try to get that just as still as possible. Can we try let's just do the most obvious one, and that's again on the third line, the last two fermatas, the F sharp to the D sharp, and see if you can get, when you get to that D sharp, we can just make it as still in that diminuendo with no vibrato. That's it. That's the moneymaker. That's it. That, that's going to make a whole bunch of, 19 and 20-year-olds in college go, oh man, how do you do that? They'll be bringing this score into the teacher and say, how do I support my vibrato sound like that and get a perfectly still tone? That's beautiful. That's just fantastic. This is going to sound great. And I look forward to your new CD, sir.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. Beautiful playing. And, tell Ohio I'll be there in a minute. And one more week left here in New York.
The weather's nice, surprisingly.
Oh, that is surprising. Trust me. It's surprising. Oh, man.
Wow. Thanks so much, Drew and Jeff. So fun, and just perfect way to dive into each piece of music and learn so much. So I'm really grateful to you, Jeff, and to everybody who played. And great afternoon.
Thank you. Well, this is a treat. I get to sit here and listen to people play really great, and tweak like one thing and look like a rock star. These guys are doing all the work.
I know, it's great, isn't it?
Play louder. Great. Look at me. No, it's an absolute treat, and thank you for having me. How much left do you have with the festival?
We've got a Thursday and then next week, so we're a little over halfway through. Hard to believe.
Hard to believe, yes.
Thanks so much, Jeff, and it's really great to have you. And thanks to everybody who played. Super great day.